Hello, everyone, and welcome. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui, coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. It is Sunday, March 7, 2021. Tonight, we have updates from several of our correspondents across North America. In Edmonton, Alberta, Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness.
8 out of 10 Canadians say they would do anything to avoid being placed in a nursing home.
In Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan.
Governor Tom Wolf commemorates 1 year of first COVID-19 cases in Pennsylvania. And we will also share with you Governor Tom Wolf's Rite Aid visit where COVID-19 vaccine is administered.
In Atlanta, Bureau Chief Philip Toledo reports about Georgia making COVID-19 vaccination progress. In Baton Rouge, Nicole Adeline Padilla reports about Louisiana moving to phase 3 and statewide mask mandate is still in place. In Houston, Jane Rogel reports about Texas local officials reacting to Governor Abbott's lifting of the mask mandate and allowing businesses to operate with 100% occupancy. In Delano, California, Catherine Fiesta.
COVID-related Miss C cases in Los Angeles spreads to over 100 children.
In Washington, D.C., EBC's Eliza Gonzalez-Manglikmut.
Washington, D.C. celebrates Women's History Month with a virtual 5K race.
In Kissimmee, Claudine Cadet reports about the Kennedy Center offering astronaut training experience. And for EBC Sports in Las Vegas, Nevada, Lori Jarvina.
Las Vegas Motor Speedway hosts NASCAR weekend.
Kenny Sumagi in New York tells us about Team Ignite clinching the last playoff spot with a win over the Austin Spurs. And EBC friend Ethel Constantino shares with us tips on how to prepare your pantry in case of natural disasters. Plus, for tonight's roundtable, March 7 is National Be Heard Day. Later on, we will hear from our team which small businesses they are championing in these very tough times. Our coverage begins now. The World Health Organization said on Thursday the number of new coronavirus cases has risen in Europe after 6 weeks of decline.
We are seeing a resurgence in Central and Eastern Europe. New cases are also on the rise in several Western European countries where rates were already high. Over a year into the pandemic, our health systems should not be in this situation. We need to get back to the basics.
Clue mentioned the pandemic worsened and brought to attention structural gender inequalities. He also reiterated the must to vaccinate healthcare and social workers.
When the pandemic hit, not a single country in this region had achieved gender equality, not one. COVID-19 has since aggravated and shone a light on underlying structural gender inequalities. 5 weeks ago, out of the 1.3 million health workers that had been infected with COVID-19, 68% were women. We must do everything in our means to protect our frontline. It is fundamental, an obligation of every government to assure vaccination of the health and social workforce.
WHO's Europe region comprises 53 nations, and vaccination drives have begun in 45. According to an AFP tally based on official numbers, 2.6% of the European Union's population have received 2 doses of COVID-19 vaccines, and 5.4% have got 1 dose. Meanwhile, the U.S. Senate on Saturday voted to approve a $1.9 trillion relief package that President Joe Biden vows will revive the country's pandemic-stricken economy, capping hours of debate, frenzied negotiations, and a marathon overnight voting session. Passed by 50 votes to 49 in a party line vote, the sweeping legislation now heads back to the Democratic majority House of Representatives, where it is expected to be adopted barring a last-minute setback. Even without the progressive priority of a minimum wage increase to $15 an hour, the stimulus bill marks a victory for Biden's Democrats as they put their stamp on the recovery from a pandemic that has killed over 500,000 in the country and hobbled its economy.
This plan puts us on a path to beating the virus, This plan gives those families who are struggling the most the help and the breathing room they need to get through this moment. This plan gives small businesses in this country a fighting chance to survive. And one more thing, this plan is historic. Taken all together, this plan is going to make it possible to cut child poverty in half.
Top Senate Democrat Chuck Schumer vowed ahead of the vote that, quote, this bill will deliver more help to more people than anything the federal government has done in decades.
Chuck Schumer, Senator Chuck Schumer. When the country needed you most, you led, Chuck, and you delivered. Neither I nor the country will ever forget that. And it's not a moment too soon. I've been talking about the urgency of this need. For over a year, the American people were told they were on their own. We've seen how hard that has been on so many Americans.
The legislation would send out $1,400 stimulus checks to most Americans and allocates $350 billion to state and local governments and $130 billion to schools. It would also provide $49 billion for expanded COVID testing, tracing, and research, and $14 billion for vaccine distribution.
Because of all the funding, we'll be able to hire more vaccinators, set up more vaccination sites to get the country in a place to get back to normal. This plan will get checks out the door starting this month to the American people who so desperately need the help.
And now an overview of today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday, March 7, 2021, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 116,662,000. Top three on the list of countries with recorded cases: U.S. more than 28.9 million, India more than 11.2 million, and Brazil more than 10.9 million. This virus has now already claimed more than 2,590,000 lives worldwide. Top three countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths are U.S. with more than 524,000, followed by Brazil, more than 264,000, and Mexico, more than 190,000. Meanwhile, in other news, 8 out of 10 Canadians say they would do anything to avoid being placed in assisted living facilities. ABC's Thomas Likeness joins us this evening for the story. Thomas.
Thank you, Anna. Well, you know, and I'm sure you don't either, we all don't want to think about it, but one day we might not be able to live on our own. You know, I think we all think we're invincible to a degree. Old age, the inability to live independently, well, that's something that happens to someone else, not us. But a dose of reality now, you know, people are living longer, and that longevity increases the chance that our bodies are going to wear out before our life expires. And that raises the question of who will care for us. You know, in some cases, maybe our families, our children. But what if they're thousands of miles away? What if financially they're unable to help us out? Well, maybe we turn to long-term care. Up here in Canada, we have a mix of public and private nursing homes, some good, some bad. Some are subsidized and affordable. Others, well, they charge a huge premium. And how are people feeling about these homes since the pandemic? Not very good. The National Institute on Aging and the Canadian Medical Association surveyed a couple of thousand Canadians to see what they thought, and an overwhelming majority, 85% say they will do anything necessary to avoid living in a nursing home. And that's not just older people, that's Canadians of all ages. Now, when you consider just the over 65s, that demographic, that number jumps to 97%. The survey results should not be surprising, considering what happened in the pandemic last spring. Conditions in nursing homes began to come to the forefront then. Thousands of seniors living in these places died of COVID-19, but even more horrifying were the conditions they had to live in. Infection control was poor at best. There was abuse, neglect, cruelty. These homes were chronically understaffed. Residents in some of these homes were left for days in soiled bed linen. many of these facilities overcrowded. According to the survey, 81% of those asked said the problems in long-term care were evident before the pandemic, but COVID-19 only made them worse. They made them more visible. Dr. Samir Sinha, one of the authors of the report, says the survey shows that the Canadian public, and older Canadians in particular, have lost trust in their government's ability to safeguard people in long-term care. Now, in Canada, more than half of these homes are privately owned, and this begs the question of whether shareholder profits come before the welfare of residents. But to be fair, government-run homes need a lot of improvement too. Post-pandemic, hopefully, there'll be a lot more to talk about how to, than just talk about how to care for seniors. You know, warehousing the elderly in homes is just plain inhumane. But equally as bad is not providing an environment for people whose families are unable to care for them. You know, it's a hard decision to make, to place Nanai or Tatai, Lola or Lolo in long-term care, particularly when you look at the conditions these days in many of these homes. Here's wishing you never need one. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Thomas, for your report. You mentioned people are living longer, and therefore it's getting to be more challenging to prepare for, like you said, for the when we grow old. Do you see governments in Canada raising the standards of elder care in the country?
That's a difficult question. It's one thing to have standards. It's another, of course, to enforce them. One thing I'd like to see is unannounced inspections. The inspectors just show up, no notice. Then you don't have time to kind of cover up some of the problems. In Canada, we've got two levels of government, federal and provincial, and right now they're arguing over who's going to pay for better care. The provinces oversee health care, so each of those 10 provinces has its own approach. So we've got 10 different sets of standards. And politically, you know, campaigning for better care for our seniors, not a big vote getter. So don't expect to see that in anyone's campaign platform. And as we move forward from the pandemic, I think sadly, these graphic descriptions of the inhumane conditions in the home will start to fade from some people's memories. And even as we got in the second wave here, we saw little that was done to improve the conditions. So it's going to be an uphill battle. And I think we're going to have to just keep at governments, keep at our leaders to say, you got to do better than that. You got to say more than we got to do better. You've actually got to have some action. Anna?
Yes, Thomas. Unfortunately, it's hard to rely on the government to make those changes. We have to, hopefully, the public will speak up, make some changes in voting, right, and new legislations. I was wondering, Thomas, there in Canada, you have universal health care. Do you happen to know if they pay into long-term care facilities?
They will pay into the public long-term care facilities, which is about $1,700 a month, subject to check in around that figure, which is about how much somebody would be getting for low income. But if you want a higher quality home, you could find yourself paying $6,000, $7,000 a month, and that's just out of reach for a lot of people. So yeah.
Yes, I was going to say $1,700. It's not going to go far. Well, Thomas, I appreciate. We thank you for your report, and stay safe. And we'll talk to you later on in our roundtable discussion.
Look forward to it, Anna. You take care.
You too. Back to COVID news. In Pennsylvania, Governor Tom Wolf leads the state in commemorating the first year since its recorded COVID case. The story and more from Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan in Swarthmore. Myla?
That's right, Anna. 1 year ago last Saturday, Pennsylvania had its first presumed positive COVID-19 cases. Governor Tom Wolf honored the loss of more than 24,000 Pennsylvanians to the pandemic in the past year and thanked the public for enduring the hardships, caring for one another, and taking the necessary steps to mitigate the spread of the virus. Let's take a look.
Today marks 1 year since we saw the first presumed positive COVID-19 cases in Pennsylvania. It's been a hard year, one full of unimaginable loss and broken dreams. We lost far too many friends, far too many neighbors, and far too many loved ones. But I am so proud of how Pennsylvanians have worked together to make it through the unthinkable. Thank you all for taking care of one another.
The governor also assured Pennsylvanians that we are headed toward a brighter future as vaccine production and distribution increases. As we grieve and reflect on the past year, the governor also encouraged everyone to have hope in the weeks and months ahead. Also, Governor Tom Wolf visited the Rite Aid location in Stilton, administering COVID-19 vaccine to Pennsylvanians and providing free drive-through testing for the virus. Rite Aid is a Pennsylvania-based company, and it was one of the first pharmacies to offer COVID-19 testing, which still does at no cost at its drive-through locations. The company is also part of the program that is helping to vaccinate residents of personal care and assisted living facilities licensed by the Department of Human Services, or DHS. Rite Aid is also a member of the Federal Retail Pharmacy Partnership, vaccinating eligible Pennsylvanians at its retail stores and soon administering the Johnson & Johnson vaccine to eligible child care workers not associated with a school as part of the COVID-19 Task Force Special Initiative announced Wednesday. Here's Rite Aid Executive Vice President and Chief Pharmacy Officer Jocelyn Conrad to tell us more.
Rite Aid is proud to be a Pennsylvania-based company that is playing an integral part in helping to end this pandemic. As a lifelong Pennsylvanian myself, I'm proud to work with the Governor Wolf and leaders across the state to provide vaccines for those in need. Rite Aid has been on the front lines for Pennsylvania residents since we first opened our first testing center on March 22nd, 2020 in Philadelphia. We've since expanded to offering no-charge testing at all Rite Aid drive-through locations. When the first COVID-19 vaccines were approved late last year, we were one of among the first partners with the state administering its supply right to our stores.
As a partner with the state and specifically Department of Health Services, Rite Aid provides critical work as the pandemic has shown us just how vulnerable residents and staff living and working in DHS licensed facilities are to COVID-19, especially when they have multiple risk factors. To date, more than 300,000 residents and staff of long-term care facilities in Pennsylvania have received one or more doses of vaccine through programs such as the Federal Pharmacy Partnership and the partnership with Rite Aid. For weather here in Swarthmore, it's 38 degrees Fahrenheit or 3 degrees Celsius with clear skies. In Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Myla Simbula and Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Myla. That's great news, with the Rite Aid giving out the vaccine, because most of the elderly, they really prefer to go to their a familiar place. So if it's a Rite Aid where they go to get their medicine already, I'm sure most of them will prefer to go there. I can't believe it's been a year since the first case of COVID-19 there in Pennsylvania. How are Pennsylvanians doing, Myla?
Well, I can say we're getting there. Actually, last Sunday, me and my friends, we went out for dinner. And the restaurant was packed. We were surprised. I mean, it doesn't look like there's COVID out there. And my kids, starting March 17, they will be starting 4 days a week going to in-person school. Right now, they're still in hybrid, where 2 days they go in person and online for 3 days. But starting March 17, they will start. But still an option, though. If you want to still go 4 days online, you have that option. But they're now giving options for 4 days. And I also checked the dashboards, and the percent positivity is really now low into almost 5%. It was about 20% last December. It was really bad December. So I think we're getting there, especially with all these vaccine distributions coming along. Anna?
Thank you, Myla. So your kids are opting to go back to school in person?
Well, yes, my daughter would love to go back to school for 4 days, but my sons are still wanting to stay here at home doing their online schooling. And
well, it's good that you still have the choice. They still have the choice to whether to go back in person or to stay at home. Thank you,
right.
Myla, for your report, and thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you on. Up next, updates from Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas. Eagle News America continues.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. The state of Georgia announces progress in its COVID-19 vaccination program, saying it has inoculated 60% of its elderly population. The state is also gearing up to reopen schools 5 days a week. In Atlanta, Bureau Chief Philip Toledo files this report.
Thanks. Most of us are at around the 1-year mark since pandemic restrictions began wherever you are in the country. And now, as states begin to ease restrictions, much of the talk has been on distribution of the vaccines. Now, last week we reported that starting tomorrow, March 8th, more vaccine eligibility is expanding here in the state of Georgia. Now, leading into this, the governor gave an update on vaccinations to the age 65 plus population.
I wanted to give you a brief update on our vaccination numbers. We've now given at least one dose to over 860,000 Georgians over the age of 65, which is a group that accounts for 77% of Georgia's deaths due to COVID-19.
According to the governor, at least 60% of the state's elderly population has received at least one dose, compared to the national average of 49%. This progress, along with the increased supply of vaccinations from the federal government, is what led Kemp and other officials to allow the expansion to additional populations, particularly educators, in an attempt to, as Kemp put it, expedite a full 5-day-a-week return to the classroom. In other vaccine news, last week the White House announced that the Atlanta Falcons' home field, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, would house a federally run mass vaccination site capable of administering 6,000 doses a day to communities hit hard by the pandemic. This is expected to be a welcome help to the vaccine progress in the state. As of today, over 900,000 individuals have received both doses of the vaccine, with 1.4 million still awaiting their second dose. Cases are still on a downward trend, which is good news, but there are still many restrictions in place, which has lowered some of the expected festivities of the NBA All-Star Game, which is going to be played in Atlanta later today. In Atlanta, Georgia, Philip Toledo, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you.
Thank you, Philip, for that report. Now, the state of Louisiana is moving to phase 3, but statewide mask mandate is still in effect. In Baton Rouge, Eagle News correspondent Nicole Padilla files this report.
Thank you, and hello from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. In the past 6 weeks, Louisiana has seen improvements in COVID case counts. There has been a decrease in COVID-related hospitalizations, and on Tuesday, March 2, Governor John Bel Edwards announced that Louisiana will move forward to phase 3, and Louisiana's statewide mask mandate will remain in place. The governor's new order will last for 28 days and will expire March 31st. Louisiana has completed more than 6 million COVID tests and administered more than 1 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccines. Governor Edwards said, as we are cautiously reducing some of the restrictions related to slowing the spread of COVID, it is even more critical that people take the necessary precautions to protect themselves and those around them. The last several weeks have been full of hopeful milestones, including a third COVID vaccine and the state administering more than 1 million doses. But we also know that COVID variants, which we know are more contagious, are active in Louisiana. In nearly a year of battling this pandemic, we have lost almost 10,000 of our fellow Louisianans, and many people have suffered greatly. It is incumbent upon all of us to do our part to help put this pandemic behind us and save lives. Indoor gatherings may operate at 50% capacity with a limit of 250 people. Outdoor events may operate at 50% of their capacity with no limit on attendance, but 6 feet of social distancing must be practiced. Religious services will no longer have capacity limits, and social distancing is strongly encouraged, and masking will still be required. Conventions, conferences, indoor sporting events, and fairs and festivals may operate at up to 50% capacity with 6 feet of social distancing required if they receive approval from the State Fire Marshal and the Louisiana Department of Health. Please take note that strict masking continues to be required for all gatherings and events. In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I'm Nicole Padilla. Eagle News will live in interesting times.
Thank you, Nicole, for your report. Now, the state of Texas recently announced the lifting of the state's mask mandate and allowing businesses to operate with 100% occupancy. Local officials are reacting. Most of them disagree with the governor's decision. Jane Rogel in Houston fills us in. Jane?
And howdy from the Lone Star State. On Tuesday, the Texas governor made headlines when he announced the lifting of the mask mandates and for businesses to increase its occupancy at 100% statewide to take place on March 10th. Today, we will hear from the local government officials, particularly in the largest urban areas in Texas, which are Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio, to find out their reactions to the governor's declaration. Here in Houston, Mayor Sylvester Turner issued a statement on social media expressing his disagreement with the governor's executive order. Mayor Turner stated, "The governor is wrong to roll back the statewide mask order, which is not supported by the medical professionals, science, or data. The Texas legislature must speak up, and the people of Texas must hold their leaders accountable. Every time we start moving in the right direction, the governor steps in and sets us back and makes all of our jobs harder. He minimizes the sacrifices of people and businesses. I just don't get it." Is the governor's statement today an attempt to deflect from the winter storm system-wide state leadership failure? Yes. Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson shared his reaction to Governor Abbott's announcement, stating, "The people of Dallas should continue to mask up and take precautions to slow COVID-19 spread and mutations. We are getting closer to achieving herd immunity, and now is not the time to let our guard down. Vaccines, masks, and social distancing are the best tools we have for fighting this virus, which has claimed far too many lives in the last year." Meanwhile, in the city of San Antonio, Mayor Ron Nirenberg and Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolf held a live conference Tuesday to share their concerns regarding the governor's executive order.
Continue to remember that COVID-19 is still widespread in our community, You've seen the numbers come down, but the virus is still very dangerous and present in our city. Wearing a mask is one of the easiest ways to slow the spread of COVID-19, so please wear your mask to protect yourself and to protect others around you. If you're a business owner, thank you for enduring some of these very mixed messages that we've been getting over the course of the pandemic. We continue to urge you to continue requiring your patrons to wear a mask. Wearing a mask helps keep you, your staff, and your customers safe. Over now to Judge Wolf.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And I think we all know pretty much what the governor said today. No doubt we all think it's a big mistake and should not have been done because we're still not out of this. Over 400 people still in the hospital, people in ICU, people on ventilators, still getting infection rates. And we don't know what's going to happen with the iterations of COVID, whether it be from South Africa, or whether it be from Brazil, or whether it be from the UK. So we still have a lot of work ahead of us, and this is not the time to let our guards down. So we know that the mandate will expire next Wednesday, and we just encourage all of you to do what you've been doing. If we do that voluntarily and we keep up our guard like we've been doing, we may get through everything okay. But we do have some challenges ahead of us. You got spring break coming. We know that 20 to 29 as a percentage has a higher infection rate because they're not quite as careful. And we know they bring that home to mom and dad and older people that they bring. So we're worried about that, and there won't be a face mask mandate in place when spring break comes across. But now with the Bexar County facilities, we're going to continue to require face masks. And we'll do the same thing in our parks and restrict.
The San Antonio mayor stated, opening everything to 100% while simultaneously nixing our state's mask mandate is a huge mistake. COVID-19 is still widespread in our community and infecting far too many vulnerable residents. Please join me in continuing to wear a mask. We're not out of the woods yet. Nueces County Judge Barbara Canal stated Tuesday that the county will follow the governor's new executive order to lift the mask mandate and allow businesses to operate at 100%. But she also urges residents to continue following safety measures because they are working. Stay tuned to Eagle News for further updates. In Houston, Texas, my name is Jane Rojal. For Eagle News, we'll live in interesting times.
Thank you, Jane, for that update. Now, still to come, stories from California, D.C., and Florida. This is Eagle News America.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
This is Eagle News America. I'm Anna Kui in Las Vegas. It is called multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children, or MIS-C. It is linked to COVID-19 and has infected more than 100 children in LA County. Eagle News correspondent Catherine Fiesta is with us tonight with the details. Catherine, tell us how serious this situation is.
Thank you, Anna. So with Los Angeles County recording over 1.2 million positive cases of COVID-19 since the beginning of the pandemic, plus a death count of over 22,000, again, because of coronavirus, the last thing that hard-hit LA needs is a threat of another health crisis. But according to the Public Health Department, a rise in a debilitating condition, this time targeting the very young, has begun to rear its ugly head. As said before, multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children, or MIS-C, has been linked with the dreaded coronavirus. In Los Angeles County, a reported 116 children were admitted to the hospital for the syndrome, with 41% of that number being sent to the ICU. Accounting for 29% of these cases are children younger than 5 years old. Another 43% are aged from 5 to 11 years old, while the remaining 28% of the patients are from the ages 12 to 20. The majority of sick children are Latino, who made up 75% of those with the syndrome. Now, as the name implies, inflammation is one of the symptoms that patients with the syndrome can suffer. This may include inflammation of parts of the body, such as the heart, lungs, kidneys, brain, skin, eyes, and gastrointestinal organs. The onset of persistent fever has also been known to occur with the syndrome. Parents and guardians who suspect their child may be sick should reach out to their healthcare provider or visit an urgent care center if they feel it appropriate. And of course, emergency services should be sought out for serious or severe situations. For families that do not have a healthcare provider, Los Angeles County wants them to dial 211 for assistance with accessing medical services. As one of the counties still in the purple tier and with hospitals pushed to their limits, the Director of Public Health, Dr. Barbara Ferrer, reminds the public that with warm spring weather on the way, people will undoubtedly want to be out and about. However, Dr. Ferrer asks that everyone still continue to do their part in maintaining good infection control by avoiding large gatherings, wearing face masks, and putting non-essential travel on hold. With these precautions, along with vaccination efforts, Los Angeles County is working towards returning residents to their jobs, their loved ones, and to a sense of normalcy. In Delano, California, Catherine Fiesta, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Catherine, for that update. Now, do you know of any child or children has succumbed to this syndrome there in LA County?
Unfortunately, Anna, as of the time this data was collected, one child death has been reported. So just like what we mentioned, it's important for parents to watch their children for any signs of the syndrome and to seek out medical help immediately. Anna?
Thank you, Catherine, for your report. Stay safe out there. Mayor Muriel Bowser invites D.C. residents to join this year's virtual 5K run in celebration of Women's History Month. ABC's Eliza Gonzalez Manglek-Mo joins us tonight for the details. Eliza?
A great Sunday evening to you, Anna, and a wonderful Monday morning to our friends on the other side of the globe. Now, March is Women's History Month, and D.C. residents are invited to honor and celebrate the more than 350,000 women and girls living in the district by participating in this year's Fit DC Her Story 5K. This will be the third annual Her Story 5K, and this year it will be held on Saturday, March 20. Participation is free. Oh yes, no cost to the participant, and the first 1,500 individuals to register will receive a commemorative Her Story t-shirt, a face mask, and a racer's bib. These racer incentives will be made available in the days leading up to the 5K via grab-and-go pickup at select Department of Parks and Recreation or DPR locations. Last year's Her Story 5K drew over 2,000 participants to Freedom Plaza. But this year, due to the pandemic, instead of gathering at one location, residents are encouraged to run or walk in their neighborhood or on one of the 6 suggested public 5K routes. These are Anacostia Park, Haynes Point, Freedom Plaza, Rock Creek Park, Shaw Neighborhood, and from the White House to the National Mall. DPR will also open 8 select locations with running tracks and allow residents to come and go as they please. These running tracks are Banneker, Hillcrest, and Kenilworth Recreation Centers, Oxon Run Park Trail, Palisades Community Center, Sherwood, Stead, and Turkey Thicket Recreation Centers. And again, this will be on Saturday, March 20 from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You could run anywhere in DC or the DPR track or on a suggested public 5K route that we have just mentioned. Residents can register for the 5K at herstory5k.com. Now for some weather update, it is 46 degrees Fahrenheit or 8 degrees Celsius in the nation's capital. In Washington, Eliza Gonzalez, Manglik Mott, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Eliza, for that update. Now, I know you're there in DC, and I know you're a runner. So, any chance you're participating in this year's Her Story 5K?
And as a matter of fact, my daughters and I, we are running the Her Story 5K race this year. In the past, we have run individually in different races, but Her Story 5K will be our first race running together. So, yay. And we have registered and are very excited to participate, not only because it will be a wonderful mother and daughter's activity, but of course, it'll be an honor and celebration of the women and girls, not only in the district, but around the world. Anna?
That's a really nice way to bond with your girls. Now, you mentioned several options where a participant may choose to run. Have you picked your race route yet?
Well, Anna, we are still deciding between 2 options. If we opt for a more scenic route, we might run Rock Creek Park. But if we are more in the mood for a city feel, then more than likely we'll run the one from the White House to the National Mall. We'll keep you posted.
Yes, definitely. We want to hear how that goes. And of course, your Eagle News team here will be rooting for you and your daughters. Thank you so much, Eliza, for your report.
You're welcome.
In Florida, aspiring space travelers now have the chance to train like real astronauts. Eagle News correspondent Claudine Cadet files this report.
Have you ever wanted to go to outer space, to train to traverse the unknown like a real astronaut? Well, now you can. Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida is offering a new experience at their visitor center that's out of this world. Starting March 6th, you too can also undergo the same training as space explorers Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. On their website, Kennedy Space Center encourages future space travelers to practice their docking skills, navigate the unique Mars terrain, and experience the sensation of performing a spacewalk in a microgravity environment. As long as you're 10 years old and at least 48 inches tall, you too can experience spacewalk training that will make you feel like you're walking on Mars. There are multiple virtual reality simulators that will prepare you to take your first steps in space. These include the Lander Rover Simulator, the Walk on Mars Virtual Reality, the Spacewalk Simulator, and even more attractions. The experience is only available on select dates, and you will have to reserve ahead of time on their website. It includes a 4 to 5 hour program where you'll be able to solve real out-of-this-world problems with NASA technology. So take a walk in astronaut shoes for once. If you don't have time for the full 4 to 5 hour program in your day, you can still experience training stages, which are about 35 minutes to an hour each of spacewalk training and the Mars Exploration Virtual Simulator. This way, you'll have time to experience the rest of Kennedy Space Center when you visit. So take a break from Earth for a little while and come hang out with us in outer space. I'm Claudine Cadet, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Claudine, for that update. Up next, EBC Sports and tonight's roundtable about National Be Heard Day, championing small business in our communities.
Broadcast journalist Wayne De La Fuente returns on Philippine television and radio to deliver top stories and engage with the country's policymakers, shapers, and movers. Tatalakayin ang mga pangunahing balita alas 7 ng umaga mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes Live sa teleradyo ng Net25 at Radyo Aguila DCEC 1062. Kasama si Wayne De La Fuente sa Balik Talakayan.
Tayong mga Filipino, likas na palabati. Sanay rin tayong makipagkamay. Pero dahil na rin sa COVID pandemic, isinusulong ang pagbati na hindi na kailangan pang makipagkamay. Ang pambansang pagbati. Ito ay ang pagdampi ng kanang palad sa gitnang bahagi ng dibdib, kasabay ng bahagyang pagyukod ng ulo o paibabang tingin, at pagsambit ng mga salitang nagpapahayag ng pagbati, paggalang o pagpupugay. Pagkatapos nito ay ang pag-angat ng ulo ng nakangiti at nakatingin sa mata ng binabati. Pambansang pagbati, pagpapakita ng paggalang, kababaang loob at pagiging sensero nating mga Filipino.
It's time to take one step further and face the impossible. Time to search the unknown and fight for the truth. Time to overcome boundaries and connect the world. It's time for DW News.
EBC Sports, it is NASCAR weekend, and Las Vegas welcomes in-person and virtual face fans to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway and to the virtual fan garage. To tell us more about this, Eagle News correspondent Lori Jarvina is with us tonight. Lori?
Thank you, Anna, and warm greetings to all our viewers in America and abroad. Now, have you ever felt the need for speed? Well, this past weekend, Las Vegas welcomed racing fans to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Virtual fans were also welcomed as LVMS became the first track to debut its virtual fan garage. Let's take a quick peek at what these races are all about.
About the on time. Good job. Rock and roll, 267 laps around this mile-and-a-half racetrack. See you, Victor Lane.
Green flag in Las Vegas.
Second flag right here, Vegas.
Wins the Pennzoil.
About the on time. Good job.
Kyle Busch and Joey Logano are in a fist fight. Kyle Busch walked over and threw a haymaker.
The opportunity is there. Let's go get it.
Past champions winning here in Las Vegas.
So true.
According to Speedway Motorsports Chief Sales Officer Kevin Camper, the virtual fan garage is the latest innovation to bring our race fans and sponsors closer together. This virtual connection is especially needed as we gradually increase public access to events. The NASCAR weekend at Las Vegas Motor Speedway was conducted with a limited number of fans in the Speedway seating area. Those in attendance were required to maintain proper social distancing, wear face coverings, and were subject to temperature checks at the gate. Fans did not have access to the pit or garage areas throughout the weekend. According to LVMS President Chris Powell, he stated, "There are no higher priorities than the health and safety of every race fan who is fortunate enough to attend our events. The same goes for every competitor, official, sponsor, and staff member. Everyone has my personal assurance that we will follow every protocol in our zealous effort to keep everyone safe." The event kicked off on Friday with the Bucked Up 200 NASCAR Camping World Truck Series event, followed by the Alsco 300 NASCAR Xfinity race on Saturday, then concluded with the 24th annual Pennzoil 400 presented by Jiffy Lube NASCAR Cup Series earlier today. Attendance was estimated at about 12,500 fans, or around 15,000 capacity for the Pennzoil 400. Spectators were also treated to an appearance by the world-renowned U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds, who performed a flyover with their signature Delta or V formation over the speedway. The Thunderbird station at Nellis Air Force Base, located here in Las Vegas, features 6 F-16 Fighting Falcons, the Air Force's premier multi-role fighter aircraft. Commander of the Thunderbirds, Lieutenant Colonel John Caldwell, said that they're excited to continue their tradition of flying over the Pennzoil 400 in our hometown. In Las Vegas, Nevada, Lori Jarvina, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Lori. I'm sure this, for the fans of NASCAR, that this time it looks so much different because that speedway, I believe, can seat about 80,000 at full capacity. So I'm sure it looked pretty empty, but it looks like they had so much fun still. Now, Lori, are you a NASCAR fan?
Anna, I had a feeling you were going to ask me that question, and unfortunately, I don't know much about NASCAR or racing, but my children grew up watching the Pixar Cars movie, so I am very knowledgeable about Lightning McQueen, Ka-Chow, and all of that, but here in Las Vegas, I believe that I will have to embrace it even more because I know that Las Vegas is a town that they'll come to often, so I'll be looking forward to knowing more about NASCAR and all the racing crowds. Anna?
Yes, Lori. So maybe next year we'll head over there and check it out ourselves. Thank you for the update, Lori.
You're welcome.
The stage is now set for the NBA G League playoffs, and with a dominant performance against the Austin Spurs Saturday, Team Ignite captured the last playoff spot. Here's Tandy Samagi with the story.
Team Ignite clinched the last G League playoff spot with a win against the Austin Spurs on Saturday. Head coach Brian Shaw praises the team's efforts with dominant performances by Isaiah Todd and Amir Johnson.
And this may be the most complete and the best game that we played in the bubble offensively and defensively, and we did it when it counted against a team that was, where we were the underdog. But we came out with that fighting spirit and saved our best game when we needed it the most.
So going into this game, I had, obviously the same mindset, just a little bit more amplified, a little bit more locked in going into this game because the importance of it, meant something to me.
I tried to emphasize for our guys like this was a playoff game for us, and it was do or die, and everybody stepped up, man. I think this is one of our best games. I think we had 33 assists. Everybody was scoring, the ball was moving and popping, and we just all played together as a team. And that's how you win games. And I just hope that we continue that. And again, we'll see how far we can take it.
Team Ignite will play against top-seeded 905 Raptors on Tuesday. In New York, Tenny Samagi, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Tenny, for that update. Now, March 7 is National Be Heard Day. It is a day dedicated to celebrate the small business industry and encourage communities to promote and support them. According to nationaldaycalendar.com, this day is to encourage small business owners to stand out through creative marketing, smart publicity tactics, a strong visual appearance, or any other inventive ways of making their presence known. It says around the United States, small businesses employ approximately 47% of the workforce. And as Deputy Mayor for DC's Planning and Economic Development, John Falsicchio puts it, our small and local businesses are the backbone of the local economy. During the pandemic, small and local businesses took a major hit when it comes to how they generate their income. State and local governments have reached out to these business owners through special funding made available to them. Tonight, for our roundtable, let's ask our team here what are you doing to help small businesses in your own communities? So let's start with Thomas. Tell us, what are you doing to help the small business there from where you're from?
Well, as much as possible, and you're right, the engine of the economy is small business, but as much as possible, I try to avoid buying online from big chains. You know what I like about a small business is you get to know the owners. They get to know you. I actually feel important when I walk into some shops because the owner calls me, hey, Tom, how's it going? They know you, unlike online companies like the one named after a river in Brazil. So I would rather support a local retailer. They give my friends and neighbors jobs. They pay taxes, support government services. Yeah, I could save a few bucks by going online, but then when I have a problem with the product, who do I take it to? I go back to the small business retailer I know, and he helps me out. He takes care of me. That's what I love about small business. So support them.
Exactly, Thomas. There's nothing like walking into a local store and, like you said, being called by your first name. That's really, it really makes you feel good. Thank you, Thomas. Now, how about Eliza? Eliza, what are you doing out there in DC to help support small businesses?
Well, Anna, like Thomas, I've always liked the personal feel when you go to local shops, and I've always believed in supporting small businesses. So when we have the chance and the budget, we buy lunch at locally owned restaurants in the district. And one of our favorites is 14th Street Snack Bar. It's about a 2-mile walk from the office, and they offer very affordable lunch specials. And going back to my report earlier, all month long, Her Story 5K will highlight various Her Story champions and showcase women-owned local businesses and Fit DC partners who help make events like the 5K run go
That's
on.
very nice. So you can help in that way too, to help promote it.
Yes, correct.
Thank you, Eliza. Now, what about you, Mila, over there in Pennsylvania? What are you doing to help promote or support small businesses in your community?
Yeah, yes, Anna. One of the things I missed prior to COVID was a farmer's market. And there was a farmer's market like 4 minutes from my house. So, but instead, there are other farmer's market in the area where we go to now because always have really fresh vegetables, organic vegetables especially. And although they're only open during the weekend only, but we try to support them because we know it doesn't only help us to eat healthy food, but also it helps the community. Anna?
Thank you, Mila. Now, what about Lori? Lori, tell us what you're doing to help support small businesses in your community.
To support small businesses, Anna, I think it's no surprise that I'll go straight to food, which everyone kind of alluded to today anyways. So I love the fact that small businesses have unique dishes that you can't find anywhere. So whenever visitors come to Vegas, I'll definitely take them to some local favorites. For example, here in Las Vegas, one of the first places I'll take a visitor would be Truffles and Bacon. But if we're not actually doing a sit down, a really good go-to of ours is Pink Box Donuts because they're trying to franchise outside of Vegas. But as far as I know, they're only in Vegas right now. Anna?
Thank you, Lori. Yes, I will, as you all know, I'm here in Las Vegas as well. And any one of you want to come to visit, we will take you to Truffles and Bacon. You do have to try that. Thank you, Lori. What about Catherine? How about you there in LA? What are you doing to support small businesses?
So I actually work at a small business. It's a running store. So what kind of sets us aside from, the bigger running stores, other chain brands, we kind of specialize in really knowing our products and even assessing gait to help people find the right running shoe or whatever they need for their running athletic wear, kind of things like that. But I'm also a big iced coffee lover, so I try to find the best iced coffee, and there are a lot here in the town, Cafe Smitten, Cloud9 Coffee. If you guys are ever down here, I'd love to take you guys to iced coffee or even hot coffee and some pastries.
Sounds good, Catherine. So wherever we go, we're going to have a place to go to. Just hook up with our EBC correspondent wherever we are, right? Since we have one pretty much in every city now.
That's right. And I might just visit Catherine in her store once this pandemic is over.
That's right.
How about you, Anna? What's your favorite local shop?
My favorite local shop, there is a local donut place. It's owned by a Japanese family called Mazoa Donuts. Mm-hmm. They have these apple fritters that I really love. And to support them, I always just word of mouth, right? I think it's still the best marketing tactic that any business can have is word of mouth. So let's continue to support our small businesses, help them get through the rest of this pandemic, and hopefully we will all see some kind of normalcy sometime soon. Thank you, Eagle News team, for sharing all of that with us. And now it's time to thank our frontliners, first responders, and essential workers. Join me in giving them a much-deserved round of applause. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. That is today's Eagle News America. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Anna Kui, and we live in interesting times.